Welcome to the relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that Jessica Camara, on the heels of a big win over former champion Hyun-Mi Choi, has booked herself a fight. A stay busy fight.
Against Bonnie Hunter.
This will qualify as a defense of Jessica's WBA gold title in the lightweight division. That's where Rhiannon Dixon reigns as WBO champion. Beatrice Ferreira reigns as IBF champion. Katie Taylor, she's still got the other two belts, the WBC and the WBA, though not for long, I think.
This fight,
scheduled for 10 rounds in the women's lightweight division, is a defense of Jessica's gold title, which can serve as a segue to one day fight for the full title. And this is a stay busy fight, it is. Bonnie Hunter, God bless her, she's got a record of 5 wins with 3 losses, and she's 40 years old.
Coming off a loss
to Jessica Camara, who's coming off consecutive wins, sporting a professional record of 13 wins with 4 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 17 professional bouts. But that's against quality competition.
The relevance of this fight?
Well, it's what I told you in my previous video. I have this sneaking suspicion that in the not-so-distant future, we could see Jessica Camara share the ring with Terri Harper, who recently announced she's dropping down in weight, down from 147 down to 135, where this fight is taking place. I have the sneaking suspicion that Terri may shoot for the WBA title. When she does, she may find herself so confronted with Jessica Camara.
It's a good fight.
Jessica's a good fighter. She's put distance between herself and that knockout loss to Carla Zamora last year. She's fought 3 times since then, won 3 times since then, most recently in April of this year opposite the ring former champion Hyun-Mi Choi, then unbeaten. Jessica traveled to South Korea for that fight, dominated Hyun-Mi Choi, even though they scored it a split decision. It didn't look that way. It looked like she was controlling Hyun-Mi Choi and getting the best of her.
So she won the WBA gold title,
which she is now defending against Bonnie Hunter. The only caveat with this stay busy fight is that it's all the way out there in September, that in preparation for it, Jessica will miss out on all of this month, all of next month, and all of August.
It's time consuming.
And God forbid something happens to Bonnie Hunter and they have to call the whole goddamn thing off. All that time will have been squandered, will have been wasted, that at the very best, this doesn't leave you a whole lot of time to do something else with what remains of the year. If you're fighting in September, you'd likely recuperate in October, and if you're lucky, you can schedule something for December?
Right.
Something bigger, because based on the opponent, like I said, this is a stay busy fight. This is just something to keep the tools sharp and keep yourself active, en route to something bigger and something better. Presumably, a fight for the full title when the time comes, and as I stated, I anticipate we may see Terri Harper versus Jessica Camara for the newly vacated WBA title once Katie vacates it.
She ain't coming back to lightweight.
The landscape is changing at 135 pounds, and I could go for Harper versus Camara, or Dixon versus Camara, or Ferreira versus Camara. Jessica Camara is a good fighter, experienced and serviceable. Even though she's been knocked out 2 times, she can make you work.
Makes for a good fight.
Fighting Bonnie Hunter in September, not a fight you gotta spend a whole lot of time thinking about. Conservatively, Camara on points seems likely. Bonnie Hunter, she's never been stopped, and Jessica, while she is a good fighter, she's not exactly a knockout merchant. She's not the strongest puncher. So Jessica Camara on points.
It's the likeliest outcome.
Look for that north of the border in Jessica's native Canada, later on towards the end of the summer in September.
Great shape because Derek's a phenomenal trainer. But let's be real. Let's be real. Okay, for starters, in 2017, do you know what Tank was doing? Tank became world champion. You know what Frank Martin was doing? He wasn't even professional yet. Okay? So one thing about this boxing shit, you can't skip steps. It's something what we call experience.
Gee, Lenny, the way you're talking down Frank Martin, Almost begs the question, if that's the case, then why is Gervonta Davis fighting him? Why did he pick him?
You make it sound like Frank don't belong in the same ring with him, yet you're the ones that chose to be here, and you're the ones that chose to do this.
Wasn't my first choice for who I would like to see Gervonta Davis fight as a customer, as a consumer, one who regularly spends money to see boxing and boxing matches. No, Frank wasn't who I had in mind.
But clearly you did.
For years now, the way that Leonard Ellerbe and Gervonta Davis have turned their nose up at what other fighters and champions are at or around these weights. You turn your nose up at those guys, but you give him the opportunity so that you can stand on the podium and downgrade him, down-talk him.
And why are you fighting him?
I remember 2 years ago, Leonard Ellerbe was saying that, Josh Taylor, an undisputed champion at the time, he said that nobody knows who he is and he doesn't bring anything to the table. He said that. He said that about an undisputed champion who was unbeaten at the time.
2 years ago.
2 years later, what's Frank bringing to the table? What is he bringing to the table that Josh Taylor couldn't, because he's getting the shot? He's getting to fight Gervonta.
These guys don't think about what they say before they get up there.
This is how you're selling this fight. This is how you're trying to incentivize the consumer, the boxing community at large, to buy this thing, by making it seem as if Frank Martin doesn't even deserve to be there.
Maybe he doesn't.
You should do a better job of hiding it, because you're the one trying to sell this fight to us.
Be honest.
What?
If he stood there talking up Frank Martin, you'd trash him for that too.
I would.
Yeah.
I'd trash him any way I could. I would trash him either way, because either way, there are other people that Gervonta Davis should be fighting, not this guy.
And at 29 going on 30 years old, WBA email champion at lightweight, it's about time the matchmaking got more ambitious.
You were the promoter of Frank Martin. You've been involved in some
Get that
blockbuster
check.
championship events
Shut up, man.
on pay-per-view, but what have you been telling Frank in regards to preparing for this moment, fighting here in Las Vegas, being the main event?
He don't like no, we getting the check.
And you're not?
Nigga, shut your ass up. Talk way too much, bro. You talk way too much.
Yeah. I told you I can back it up. I told you.
You back it up with who? Who you back it up with?
What's your fighter? It could be either one. It don't matter to me. I'm here.
Yeah, you heard, but you don't fight nobody, bro.
Okay.
You don't fight nobody.
You here for a check, brother.
Fight for?
You here for a check. You here for a check.
You here for a check.
He is.
No, y'all two here for a check.
Yeah, you got me fucked up.
Earl, do you feel that Tank hasn't fought nobody until Frank? I know you made that comment.
Nah, I ain't fought nobody, man. I feel like Michelle Rivera could be anybody on his list. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, he hasn't fought anybody. I feel like Frank is the most talented.
Errol Spence Jr. openly called out Gervonta Davis on his quality of competition so far, and Gervonta Davis basically proved him right. Gervonta Davis, who has welcomed rematches with either Ryan Garcia or Isaac Cruz in the future. Tank said of Ryan, will probably fight again. I'll fight him at 140.
Wait a minute.
So when Devin Haney wanted to fight Gervonta Davis at 140, the main thing you kept hearing is that Devin's too big and Gervonta's too small. He's not going back up there, so he can say he'll go back up there for Ryan, who beat Devin.
Huh?
Is he going to go back up there for Isaac too? Fight for Isaac's WBA title? Let me get this straight.
Wait.
You wouldn't go up there for Devin, for Teofimo, or for Matias, but you'll go up there for two guys that you beat already.
Kind of proves Errol Spence Jr.'s point.
Reheating yesterday's dinner, yesterday's leftovers, you beat those two guys already. Those are the only two guys you'd go to 40 to fight.
Isaac is a champion up there.
Champion, he's a champion up there. Champion for beating who? Rolly Romero, who Gervonta also beat? Who he also knocked out? This circle jerk.
It's a joke.
Watching Gervonta Davis in action, and what it resembles is that novelty act. The Harlem Globetrotters, that they always play the same team and they always win. They go out there, they do a bunch of tricks. It's all scripted, like Gervonta Davis's career. Seems all scripted. The only people you'd go to 40 to fight are people who you beat already.
This is all choreographed.
Ryan never actually made 140 pounds. When he moved up from 135, he never actually made 140 pounds. I don't think he's going to make it now.
He didn't for Devin.
In his own words, he said he wasn't going to make that weight and weaken himself in the process of doing it. That's what he said.
Ryan's got his own problems. He's preoccupied right now anyway. He's still waiting for adjudication from the New York State Athletic Commission, as well as the felony case he brought on himself In California?
That if they were to try to do a rematch between Ryan and Gervonta, that might have to be something for much later on in this year or at some point next year.
Likely next year.
And that's if Ryan wants to, because he doesn't have to. Even though Gervonta won the first fight, Ryan doesn't need a rematch with Gervonta, but Gervonta does need Ryan to keep making big checks, big money. He'd have to fight him again.
You ain't doing $1 million with Frank.
You think he mentioned Isaac Cruz and Ryan Garcia for no reason? He's trying to tap into their fans. We know that Isaac Cruz has grown in popularity in the last 12 months. Ryan Garcia is more popular now than when he fought Gervonta Davis. You mention those two guys, it's because you know you're not going to sell shit with this weekend's fight. And you could probably sell a bit more with a Shakur Stevenson or a Berenchik or a Lomachenko or a Lopez or a Matias, but those fights are risky.
You're risk averse.
You always have been, which goes back to what Errol Spence Jr. said about you. You say you back it up, but back it up against who?
You don't fight nobody.
5 years in the lightweight division. He's been there since 2019, and all he has to show for it is an email belt, the title that was emailed to him, a win over Rolly Romero, who nobody really takes seriously, an unheralded fighter in Isaac Cruz, whose claim to fame is beating Rolly Romero, a win over a journeyman in Gamboa, a super featherweight in Hector Garcia,
A win over a handicapped and weight-drained, weakened Ryan Garcia.
Jesus, this is what you've been doing for the last 5 years. You better not lose this weekend, because he's not the kind of fighter with the mentality to rebuild himself after a loss.
Rebuild that house of cards.
Losing one fight doesn't have to be the end of the world, but it all depends on the individual, and given the amount of angling and creative matchmaking it's taken to get Gervonta to this point and keep him an unbeaten fighter if he were to get beat, just better not lose. You better not lose to this unheralded fighter that Leonard Ellerby was just down-talking, just trashing. You better not lose to that guy. Because for you, it's over for you if you do. And finally, seemingly happening in the background of this weekend's box office fight, the Matias versus Baro fight, Subriel Matias says, "Call me arrogant, but make sure you also call me number one."
That's debatable.
There are 4 champions at this weight. Subriel Matias is just one among them. Is he really the best? Subriel Matias says training camp turns him into an animal, and Liam Baro is his prey as the pair meet for Matias's IBF Junior welterweight title at El Coliseo Juan Aubin Cruz Abreu en Manatí, Puerto Rico.
That's a mouthful.
Matias, 20-1 with 20 KOs, makes the second defense of his title in his first fight on home turf since November of 2019. And the 32-year-old wants to put on a show for his fans. Baro, 24-0 with 15 KOs, fights for his first world title and does so in the toughest of circumstances, on the doorstep of one of the most avoided fighters on the planet.
Matias has to be careful. This is a hometown fight for him, and I've been noticing a trend with these hometown fights.
Said the same thing about Jaron Ennis's upcoming hometown fight. That, when Jarrett Hurd lost his 2 alphabet titles, it was in a hometown fight. When Julian Williams lost his 2 alphabet titles, that was in a hometown fight. When Katie Taylor lost to Chantel Cameron,
That was a hometown fight.
and more recently, when Giovanni Santillán lost to Brian Norman, that was a hometown fight.
Be careful.
Matias reckons it is his time to be let off the leash, not just after a long training camp, but also for the first time in a ring in Puerto Rico for 1,660 days. And he wants to show he's the best at 140. During training camp, I feel like an animal trapped in a cage, said Matias. The confinement, the day-to-day nuisances, being away from family, creates a monster that grows inside me during the camp. I leave the camp as an animal in search of my prey. And this time, that's Liam Baro. There is no one in the 140-pound division that can beat me. It might sound arrogant, but I'll show you. I trust myself in what I do, and that makes me dangerous. My mind is my weapon. Subriel Matias is a unique blend, a combination of Puerto Rican boxing and Mexican pressure fighting, as that's where he trains. In Mexico, it's the best of both worlds.
He's a monster.
As far as I know, he's been knocked down a couple of times. I don't want to knock him down. I want him to suffer and leave a strong message to the division. I know Liam is strong, he's brave, he's got good technique, but he also has a big mouth. I'm preparing myself to take damage and to inflict damage. They want to take away the beans from my family, and we can't allow that. We've put in a lot of effort to be here, and I cannot lose everything in one day. That's why I have to make these sacrifices. I'm the best in the division at 140. There is no second, third, or fourth. I'm everything. I'm 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm scared, but it's fear that I enjoy.
He's nuts.
I just hope that my nerves don't betray me.
He's nuts.
I've been dreaming of this moment since I was a kid. I've always said that I see myself unified in this division. Many say I'm crazy, but I like it. One day they will open their eyes, and I will be the unified champion. They will have to give it to me. Matias' clash with Pato tops a stacked night of action in Puerto Rico, and all things considered, it really is a solid card. I like it. It's going head-to-head with Gervonta Davis's fight, but Gervonta's fight is the more expensive alternative.
That's a pay-per-view.
Weighing the cost of seeing Matias versus Pato and Davis versus Martin, this is a lot cheaper.
Subriel Matias was recently asked to rate his contemporaries at 140 pounds. This is what he had to say.
Hey, Nick, la chicken. Sí, para que no se ofenda. Ah, mira, Rolly Romero, ese no debería de estar ahí. Ese es de McDonald's. Vamos a ver, Cátera, vamos a ponerlo ahí 4 para que no se ofenda. Va a ser nuestra próxima presa si Dios permite. Ah, mira, que Reyes, pero hay uno, ese bacalao. You scare me, pussy.
Subriel Matias brings an old school menace, a real menacing demeanor, menacing aura that you don't always see in today's postmodern boxing landscape, that he's not putting on a show. He really wants to hurt these guys. He really does want to hurt his opponents. I don't have a doubt in my mind that he'd like to fight every single one of these guys.
Some guys put on for the camera, for the sake of selling a fight, of selling an image. He doesn't strike me as someone who's doing that.
He's got real mongrel in him. What lends credence to that notion is that he actually has killed a man before, in the ring. I'm not glorifying what he did so much as highlighting that he's that kind of fighter. He's dangerous.
In the old school sense of the word.
I will likely be watching both cards simultaneously, as I do intend to purchase this weekend's box office fight, as well as take in this one. Subriel Matias is an animal. He's a pleasure to watch if you're a boxing fan that wants to see boxing matches, explosive ones, where somebody's gonna get hurt, somebody's gonna get knocked out. Every single fight that he's won by way of knockout.
The one loss that he has on his record, he avenged it. He knocked that guy out.
The rest of Subriel Matias' career and reign as a champion is on the other side of Liam Pato, the ambitious, unbeaten Australian challenger.
What is the 7th unbeaten fighter Subriel Matias will have taken on?
And the 3rd unbeaten fighter in a row. 3rd unbeaten fighter in 6 consecutive fights he will have fought. Unbeaten Jeremiah Ponce, unbeaten Shohan Ergashev, now unbeaten Liam Pato.
Does Liam stand a chance?
He does, but I don't like it. I don't like his chances. I think Subriel Matias is going to wear him out. Unlike some other homecoming fights we've seen in recent memory, I don't think this one is going to go sideways. I think
Subriel is about to beef his patty.
He's about to Liam his Pato is what he's about to do. I think Subriel is going to fuck him up.